upon by negativity. So, you
Mhm.
know, I wouldn't think that that means that you can be absolutely protected, that there is, and then that leads to my thought about, well, once you graduate from fourth density and you realize that there is no need for conflict and it's folly to conflict at all, that realization comes from a deep wisdom and a deep understanding that all is the creator and you're fighting with yourself and there's no point to that. So that in its of itself is kind of a protection as well, but it doesn't totally negate the fact that you can be manipulated, and even like what happened to Carla where she was almost tricked into going into negative time space, like that stuff can still happen even with all of this in place. So I don't know. Yeah, that's the one of the major things that really stops me from not not having faith at all as well, but letting go of control and surrendering to the point that's needed. You know, um, that's one
I
of the things I struggle with
understand.
most. Yeah.
I get that. Um, I think the idea here is, um, welcome, Ed. I think the idea is that I think one second. Gonna All right, let me go back here. There's a line that really I think sheds a lot of light on what exactly we are referring to when we say that it's beneficial to adopt the all is well mentality and that there's safety and seeing the love in the moment and so on. It's 95.24 here, Ra's portion. Thusly, the great pitch of light is held high above such an one, so that all interpretation may be seen to be protected by light. And to me, the key word is that it is the interpretation which is seen that has the protection, that has that vibration of all is well, so that even if in physical terms, like with Carla, there's very real there was very real chance of her being deceived, a very real experiences of her almost being duped by STS friends and uh, other health issues, um, attacks on her energy body during the channeling. But it is her interpretation of those experiences, her interpretation of herself and her beingness through all those, that is where the all is well vibration, the knowing that she is loved and cherished by the creator, that is where the strength is found. And it is because of those mm, mental configurations that she had about the catalyst that she experienced, that despite going through the hardships, they did not kill her, because that was the idea, to end the contact completely, to cease the physical vehicle, her physical vehicle, from functioning at all. But that never occurred because of her faith and her understanding that she was eternally held by the creator, that everything that happened was a co-creative experience with her higher self and a part of her mission for being here, um, just part and parcel of being a higher density being committed to the light and love and service to others. So it's that interpretation that shields the psyche so that whatever we experience, we are not crushed totally by it. We are not ending our incarnation because of it, and we are not sacrificing our polarity because of it. Does that make a little bit of sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Appreciate it.
Um, I guess the something that just popped into my head was it's um, like the seatbelt. It's not going to stop a car accident, but it will save your life more times than not if you're wearing one when a car accident happens. And so, this mentality of all is well, there is love there, even if we can't in 3D terms actually see 100% the energy of that love, that it is the same as the energy of the not love, we are still given that protection, that energetic celestial seatbelt, so that when we do crash into catalyst that is intense and appears to be not love and appears to be evil, so called, or negative, so called, that we don't crash and burn, that we don't altogether die from that crash, as it were.
That's a great analogy.
Thank you. Um, we will go to the next session point. Second. Okay. So that was 95.24 and now 95.25. Questioner. I have often wondered about the action of random and programmed catalyst with respect to the entity with the very strong positive or negative polarization. Would one or either be free to a great extent from random catalysts occurring, such as great natural catastrophes or warfare or something like that, that generates a lot of random catalyst in the physical vicinity of a highly polarized entity? Does this great cat then have effect on such random catalyst upon the right hand path and the positive path? I am Ra. In two circumstances, this is so. Firstly, if there has been the pre incarnative choice that, for instance, one shall not take life in the service of the cultural group, events shall fall in a protective manner. Secondly, if any entity is able to dwell completely in unity, the only harm that may occur to it is the changing of the outward physical yellow ray vehicle into the more light filled mind body spirit complex's vehicle by the process of death. All other suffering and pain is as nothing to one such as this. We may note that this perfect configuration of the mind, body, and spirit complexes, while within the third density vehicle, is extraordinarily rare. So Don is questioning about how large scale forms of catalyst that he's classifying as random catalyst, things like sudden typhoons or hurricanes, um, war overnight, this really large scale catalyst that can just kind of sweep entire nations into it and communities, towns, cities, countries overnight, how does this affect a highly polarized entity that is positive and in the general area, like living in that area? And Ra makes note that on the one hand, there's a if there is a pre-incarnative choice that within the grand scheme of things, this incarnation will not have that experience of collective catalytic um, suffering in that way, then there would be, even in a typhoon or a hurricane or a tornado, there would be the situation where there's nothing happening. Maybe you get a bump on the head or a scratch or two. You'll probably be scared within an inch of your life, but there won't be any physical damage and you won't pass on if that was not, if it was the pre-incarnative choice to not experience this level of communal catalyst, we'll call it. But then Ra is also mentioning that if there is, if their polarization is so strong that there is a sense that I am truly one with all that is and all of my brothers and sisters, then there would be this natural magnetic pull to share in that collective experience of mass death in the case of sudden catastrophic flooding or major tornadoes tearing through a town, with little time to prepare. If this person had this heart and this mind, they would naturally go into that process with everyone else and they would pass on in some accident, whether a tree fell or whatever it may be, they would go with the communal catalyst of the tornado or other disaster or war if bombs were dropped and so on. Um, and Ra notes that suffering and pain to this individual would mean nothing. They wouldn't be focused on the fact that, oh, I'm going to leave 3D. It would be like, no, I'm going to share in this experience with my brothers and sisters because I love them and I don't want them to go alone. And so this person might run and save um, a neighbor who was stuck in their home and would pass away that way with the neighbor. Like, whatever the situation would be, it would involve them going after their brothers and sisters to join in that experience. And this would likely happen unconsciously, though it could happen consciously. Ross said that it's extraordinarily rare to have that perfect configuration to willfully go into that communal catalyst. Um, I think it's important to note that there can be a pre-incarnative choice that you just don't lose your life in a natural disaster or some large scale communal catalytic event like plague or warfare. Um, and yeah, I mean that's it's interesting and kind of uh, you can take some comfort in that if up until this point you've not had any issues of that nature. It's most likely because that was not in your plan. You decided, no, that's not something I need to come here um, to experience. There's something else I wanted to say about that, but I forgot. Any other thoughts, comments, questions related to any of that?
I do.
Sure,
Um, well, it is related, not specifically with the mass
that's okay.
catalyst. But this reminds me of what I read. It was from the Jesus and the Essenes book by Dolores Cannon, explaining the crucifixion and what Jesus went through. and it was stated in there, so take it with a grain of salt. This is hearsay, um, but that Jesus, when he was on the cross, was able to, I guess, not experience the pain of it. He was able to kind of transcend that piece of it, because long story short, he knew this was coming, and he knew he was one with the Creator and all of that, and he was able to just, I guess you could think of it as kind of meditating your way out of the pain
Mm.
of literally like being pinned to a cross and stabbed with a spear. Like he didn't feel it. At
Hmm.
least that's how it was described in there. And it feels like this is kind of that same idea when Ra is kind of saying that highly polarized configuration is rare. Well, yeah, I mean, folks like Jesus, and others like him are probably the only ones that are polarized that strongly. Um,
For sure. Um, uh, there are what you mentioned made me think of in the past, some Tibetan monks would protest through self-immolation and, they would set themselves on fire, go into a meditative state, um, and, they burned alive, but they never made a sound. And this was their protest. Many did that. And I thought about how could they be burning alive and not make a sound. Uh, so I think there there are some cases where if you're also in deep meditation, you can transcend that barrier of pain and suffering within the physical body. They might have had those perfect configurations, but it makes sense because they spent their whole lives in monasteries in a place like Tibet, with loads of positive um, support to becoming adepts of that level. But the everyday other self um, would not, most likely. I don't think I have that configuration either. I'm pretty sure I'm one of those who like put a big fat X on dying in natural disasters. Um, and I remembered what I wanted to say. Well, you never know. Um, the this part where Ra said, um, "Events shall fall in a protective manner if one shall not take life in the service of the cultural group." There's a recent story I saw in a Facebook article where the woman, she was old, like must have been in her 70s or 80s, down south. She was in her home and took refuge in a bathtub. And there's had a picture of her face and everything. It's just a small, cute little old lady, very frail, in this big white porcelain bathtub. The tornado demolished the house, picked up the bathtub, spun it around, and dropped it several feet somewhere else. And the old lady had some injuries, but no major broken bones or anything. She survived from her house being destroyed, the tornado lifting her up, spinning her around in a bathtub and throwing her, wherever. And I think, okay, no, she definitely didn't have that in her plan to lose her life in the tornado. She's one of those perfect examples of the pre-incarnative um, uh, choice or decision to not partake in the cultural group loss of life in those communal catalytic events. Oh, thank you, Colin. I don't like to jinx myself, um, but thank you. Oh, we'll go on to the next session point. Okay. 95.26 questioner. Am I to understand then that there is no protection at all if the experience of the mind has become negative and the negative path is traveled? All random catalysts may affect the negatively polarized individual as a function of the statistical nature of the random catalyst. Is this correct? I am wrong. This is correct. You may note some of those of your peoples which, at this space-time nexus, seek places of survival. This is due to the lack of protection when service to self is invoked. Okay, so this is important to note that when you are on the service to self path, it seems you lose protection that could have been invoked by the connection that you have pre-incarnatively set with your mind, body, spirit totality, aka your higher self. There's this idea that a true service to self entity rejects all others except for its own beingness. So even if it is aware that there is a mind, body, spirit totality, it is set on seeking its own counsel, its own guidance, whatever, come hell or high water. And on the one hand, that's very brave, very gutsy. Have to admire them for that level of tenacity. But on the other hand, they have nobody to really, nothing to support them. They are at the mercy of Catalyst, which of course puts them in a position to be even more rigorous with their disciplines of personality and making their will extremely sharp because they can't afford to screw up because they've got nothing to fall back on essentially. But when we're on the positive path, we kind of have all of the mm, all of the cushions set by our mind, body, spirit totality, that mid sixth density version of ourselves. All of those are at our disposal to activate whenever. Many activate unconsciously, many we can activate consciously when we ask for help and we wait and believe that we're worthy of being helped. But our STS friends have it hard. They're still going to be affected by so-called random catalysts, um, and they don't have any protection. Any thoughts, comments, questions, or anything on that? Okay.
I'm sure inside their kind of hierarchical structure, there's going to be some kind of protection in there. So, like, if you had signed up with some goetic demon and they were like, right, yeah, give me this and this and this, and then the demon was like, ah, okay, then like, I'm sure they could get him to kind of cover their back. You just couldn't really trust it, could you? It'd be like, you know, it'll just be further debt to the thing, I suppose. I don't know.
They do have protection in how it supports the hierarchy of those whose thumb they're under. Um, I do see how a ringleader of an STS coalition would want to make sure that their grunts aren't like destitute and completely out there because then they won't have as many pawns to wield. So there is that. But then there's also a lot of time where they spend fending for themselves. They get just the bare minimum, but even that bare minimum of so-called protection is really just to make sure that they stay under the thumb of the one using them, in which case it's a very cruel type of protection, and eventually they'll be kicked to the curb when a better grunt comes along. So it's protection with a caveat. Colin?
Yeah, I would think too that there's a an amount of protection that they can create for themselves, like building that bunker,
Yeah,
doing that survivalist thing, but that's still it's not the same kind of protection we're talking about on the other side of the path.
right. It's the difference between, they have a very strong will, and it's very powerful, uh, but it's still just them, it's themselves. So where in our case, if we were to invoke and have the faith that we truly um, have that support, then we can call on our mind, body, spirit totality, which is comprised of millions of incarnations throughout all different layers of reality, of all different abilities and powers. We can invoke that. Then we can invoke the guides with us. Then we can invoke our guardian angels. Then we can invoke positive ETs we've shared incarnations with. And then we can invoke the one infinite creator. And on and on and on. We can invoke Gaia. We we could go on with our rap sheet of the posse that we can bring to the cosmic yard to support us. But at the end, they just have themselves. So it's a very big difference.
I once read a LBRP that instead of using the angels, it used like the demonic entities from I think it's called the Kilprot. It's like
Yeah, the clip
so
offs. Yeah,
yeah, the kind of
they're
the root of the tree rather than the trunk of the tree, and uh, and yeah, so I personally kind of assumed that there'd be all of the same things we have, but of the negative polarity. And I think the main difference is that, like, we could actually trust that the angels want to help, and that the positive orientated entities are going to contact our aid and are going to want to protect us. Whereas I think that if you were relying on like demons and negative and Orion group and whatever else, like, I think that they'd like happily sit back and watch you fail and then laugh at you. So, you know, do you really ever? Could you ever really trust the protection they provide anyway?
That's why I said there's protection there, but with a huge caveat, and that any protection offered is with the idea that that force, because well, we talked about this in months ago in other sessions, when we got into bidding, the bees, and the way the bidding system works with these invocation of an STS to another STS for support, it's based on power dynamic. So yes, protection support may be given by a clip off, uh, or whatever other negative entity, ET, whoever's STS that wants to come on the line, enter the fray. They would be thinking of how they could control the situation. Okay, I came, you bid me, now I'm going to get you to do my bidding. So there's this constant push and pull where you never really get rest from what you are seeking when it's STS. So, yes, you cannot trust them, and they don't have your best interest at heart. They have their best interest at heart. So it's like, playing Russian roulette. And in some cases, you're better off being alone than dealing with something that may help you sometimes, but then also may let you crash and burn so that they can help you again, but on their terms. And now they're bidding you, and now you're doing their bidding and under their thumb. So
One of my
it's
favorite things I've
it's
ever read.
dicey.
One of my favorite things I've ever read. I think it was Arthur E. Waite. He wrote, "As a middle pillar magician, is it better to control a demon or convince an angel? Because with some tasks, an angel isn't going to help you. But the last thing you want is to have a demon just running rampant. So it comes down to how you use your power. Polarity, right?
Yeah. Service to self, service to others, moving towards love or away from love. In the law of one, there is no, you can choose whatever you want, free will. So, and the creator doesn't look at one or the other. It's just a matter of perspective.
There's no honor among thieves.
Mm-hmm. Um,
I
let's
do
see.
wonder if there's did you say something about um STO not having as many catalysts as STS? Because
No, there's as many,
okay.
sometimes more.
Yeah, I was wondering that because I feel like I seem to I feel like every turn for me is a catalyst, and so I just wanted to make that clear of that, what you said.
Um, there's some, there's a passage in the Raw Contact where this is brought up. Uh, I forget the context exactly, but Ra mentioned that when we are planning our incarnation and we're setting, okay, these are the themes we want to explore: hope,
Right.
anguish, despair, tragedy, betrayal, joy, overcoming, etc. Sometimes in that state where we don't have a veil, we're in the form maker body, we have all the support around us, we're like, okay, yeah, let's do this and let's add that and let's add a little bit of that and a little bit of that. And Ra said quite literally that some souls go into an incarnation biting off more than they can chew because of the excitement and desire to extract as much catalytic growth for the soul as they can. And in that case, Ra said sometimes they end up kind of shooting themselves in the foot a little bit because it ends up being so much catalyst that they can't really integrate the way they thought they could prior to getting into a body, because everything looks quite nice and exciting and fun when you're looking at it from a different layer of reality and you're no longer in a body and you didn't forget everything yet. But once you're here and in the flesh, then it's like, I don't think we should have piled that on top of that on top of that. That was, who thought that was okay? Why did you think that was okay? And
Wow.
and quite frankly, sometimes, you know, I had this sit down moment years ago with my higher self because I was noticing a theme where I learned lessons through pain and through difficulty, intense difficulty with living situation, with financial situation, with physical, mental difficulty. And I'm like, at some point, I'm like, okay, enough. Like, I literally just stood up, got into this meditative mode, knew that I was speaking to my higher self, and I said, that's it. Like, I'm done. We're not doing this anymore.
Oh, I like
I said, I don't need to learn these lessons through pain. I don't have to. My reality started to show me that it was possible to learn lessons of love without pain. Um, this has been said by Latwi, that you can learn with the teacher of pain or you can learn with the teacher of joy. Not to say that every lesson comes from sunny, happy, fun feelings, but there is a way to learn from catalysts that doesn't have to break you into a million pieces. It could just be difficult or cause some discomfort, but I don't have to suffer greatly and intensely just to learn a lesson. And I made that very clear to my higher self that I'm finished with that paradigm. Do not bring it here anymore. We can learn the lessons without great pain. And I said it just like that. I said other stuff too, but I meant business. And I would, ever since that moment, the change in my life has been like 360 degrees. I get Catalyst, but it is, I guess you would say, elevated. I'm clearly able to see what it's asking from me. I don't have to spend a lot of energy in dense, emotional, painful, physical, painful, destitute in any situation for long before I'm like, oh, there's the nugget. And
Yeah.
then I'm starting to coast out of it with a bunch of reflections. Because when you're so deep down in the pain and density, you can't even think. Like all you can do, I used to joke with myself and say, I'm very good at breathing and suffering. Like you can't even process if it's too intense. So I would encourage everyone, even those who one day may listen to this today, tomorrow, and 20 years from now, whatever, speak to your higher self, speak to your reality. You can say, I'm finished learning in this way, and there is a different and better way to do this, and I want to do it that way. And if you keep saying it and you mean business, it will change.
Yes, I that's a beautiful thing. Thank you for sharing that. A way that I have been able to step out of such trauma of all of the catalysts that I seem to be faced with in my existence in this incarnation is um, was when I met Gabriel Lugo. It was the understanding that that I was not that I had a separate self, that I was not um, my ego, that I was not just my body, right? And being able
Right.
to step back and be in all that in my true self, and then I was able to actually enter presence, be in the present moment, and that was quite the shift for me to
Wow.
understand the present moment. Um, but it doesn't. Excuse me. It definitely doesn't take away the catalyst, like you said, right?
Right.
Um, but like Eckhart Tolle says, um, when you do it to the present moment, you will still face hurt and pain. It's just not going to be as intense. Um,
Right.
I think the thing that I've come across as of late is that maybe I've stepped into a little bit of forgetfulness or of some sort, because I was able to so much not react um, in the last little while. It's been like a thing of almost to where I literally only responded, and when I was faced with some of the hardest times, I recognized it as a catalyst and was able to literally walk through it as that and not enter into the fear of it. And when the fear came, I met it with love. I met it with the unconditional love, and I spoke to it, and I was literally like climbing this the spiritual ladder so swiftly, and it was incredible. But lately, ever since the middle of my divorce, that kind of came on me quite suddenly after years of. I had left my ex-husband years ago, but he had quite his thumb very much on me all of those years, and even after that, was begging me to not go.
Think Is my connection bad? Can anyone hear me? Or did Anna mute?
I can hear you.
I can still hear you.
I can.
Oh, you cut out, Anna.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But you were saying about your ex-husband.
Yes, my ex-husband had quite his thumb on me my whole life, ever since I met him at 16 years old. And but anyway, during the divorce, I even though I left him 6 years ago, he just finally barely allowed the divorce to happen. And ever since it happened, I have literally been walking in fear again. And it's almost as if I was not able to fully walk in that present moment anymore. And I'm wondering if I've pulled back that veil, of forgetfulness or something, which I don't, feel like it was fully ever off. But I'm just saying that I think that it's definitely
Hello.
human.
I,
Go ahead.
sorry, I have a couple of ideas, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say, one, remember when you're doing any kind of spiritual work, you're having these energies, this energy flow through you. Right now, blockages in your chakras, something very real that Ra talks about, balancing them all and that. When you're going through something like this, the first thing that's going to get clogged up is that safety, is that security, the red ray, and then every stage after that kind of ends up getting that little bit harder to kind of feel. You get a little bit more disconnected. So don't worry, about like you not feeling the way you are. Also, if you had a huge period of growth and spiritual kind of a revelation, then normally what happens is you have that period and then it plateaus for quite some time. I don't know whether you've had this, but I've had like 2 or 3 of these kind of like periods where you go through it and it's like a flurry of all this crazy stuff happens, and then you have like a lull period where it doesn't happen for quite some time. And sometimes you think, oh no, what am I doing wrong? But all it is like, you need that time to integrate it and to kind of work through and do the work that you need to do now that you've got to that stage. So don't worry about either of those. Those outcomes. I think that they're perfectly natural things, and that you'll be fine. Just keep your head up, get through this hard period of time, and it'll all just come flooding back in really easily.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
The other thing I was going to say was, when you're talking about catalysts and things, some of us, we come here, I'm not quite as lucky as Ashley, like my higher self doesn't really listen to me that much, but, some of us, we come here to play Earth on hardcore level. We come here to play, like to get the maximum amount of catalytic polarity change, So if you're playing like Earth on hardcore, then hey, like all full respect to you, like another one of us, like like hardcore players. So yes, good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'd add real quick that there are you're in good company. There are, amidst the dozens of regular Zoom attendees who are members of this community, there are quite a handful who have selected extra hard mode for this incarnation.
Oh yeah.
Very strange to look at it that way. I guess I've known it, but I haven't really like fully integrated the fact that I chose this path, that this is what I selected. I selected a hard path. That's crazy. Really.
You. That's all there is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm in agreement with everything everyone shared, and I want to add the idea that with the divorce finalized, that marked a cutoff of a significant drain of your energy, and almost like you're stepping into a new template where it's you free and mind, body, spirit. And with that can come this fear of like the new the new normal, or this fear that
the new me.
I'm a new me,
Yeah.
or what if someone comes and takes it away again, my freedom, my selfness.
Yeah.
So that's all normal. And it is just a process of slowly but surely becoming comfortable with the idea that I am free and I'm never going back. Even if you have to look in the mirror at yourself and smile and say, I am free and I'm never going back. And nothing is going to bring me back. I am free, baby, free. Like
Wow.
sometimes you have to hype it up and put your emotion into it, put your heart and soul into it. Who cares if it sounds whatever? Um, you speak life into yourself and speak life into your soul. That is how the will is cultivated. And I think even if you just said that one phrase every day and look to see, like, what am I going to do with my new life, with my new free life? Um, and write all the things that you've ever wanted to do. And who cares if it's money intensive or time intensive? You're an infinite being. If you don't do it now, you'll do it sometime. You can
Yeah.
get it all done. We can all do the things we want and have all the things we want. It's just a matter of when. And because time is an illusion, it doesn't actually matter if it's in this incarnation or in 4D. As long as it happens,
So,
it's okay. And so write down all your dreams. Feel all the joyful things you've ever wanted to feel. Love on you as much as possible. And I think that can help. I do that for me. And that can help keep that forward momentum, that vitality, that joy for life and nurturing of self feeds the red ray. And the red ray, when it's fed, helps with the feeling of safety.
Yeah, and can I add too that like anytime any one of us are feeling like we're backpedaling or plateauing, it's important to remember that every part of us, down to our the protons that make us up, they have life and they have memory. So if you've advanced or grown in some way, your body or your mind or your spirit altogether remember that, and it becomes easier to do it again if you do end up actually feeling like you've backpedaled and you're going through the same catalyst again. You you've already done the work to unblock your red ray, your yellow, your orange, your green, maybe even blue and indigo. And yeah, if you create a new blockage, fine, but at least you've already been down that road, so you're not a stranger to that path anymore, and that memory will help you through it a second time or a third time. And also, I put in the chat a YouTube video that Brian Scott did that I think is an amazing video that he did, um, called calling it's called cut the cord, and it speaks to a lot of what we're talking about. Like if just because you say divorce somebody doesn't mean you've fully cut the cord,
right.
emotionally, or and that's a really good video to watch to kind of remember how to cut the cord properly and fully. Uh,
Oh, thank you for that. Oh, you guys are just, wow. It's amazing that I'm here. Thank you so much.
You're so
I love Brian
welcome.
Scott. Like that guy is actually a legend. Like the whole reality revolution thing is something I've followed for I don't know years and years now. So yeah, anything he puts up. But I have to say the cord cutting rituals, like the idea of like that we've got these kind of energetic links between us all. As we interact, as we connect, like there's energy transfer that kind of keeps us connected. It keeps that energetic cord between the two of you. So by doing a cord cutting ritual, they're really, really good. They're really powerful because as soon as you snip that cord, it's like an unbelievable amount of the energy that you essentially you waste is being drained from you down that cord. And every time they feel bad, that's going to have some small effect on you. You know, so by doing the cutting cord rituals, I've done them myself, and I have to say, I don't know, I haven't done the Brian Scott one, but I've done, you know, cord cutting rituals in the past, and I have to say they're incredibly good at getting over, you know, leftover emotional baggage and things like, yeah. So yeah, definitely do that.
Thank you. I actually I took a course, a 3-month course from Oliver Nuno. I don't know if you've heard of him. He and I've actually been receiving a lot of texts and emails from him lately about going to Sedona, and
Ooh,
I feel like I'm supposed to go to Sedona, and I've
go.
been procrastinating that just because of everything that's been happening around me, and maybe I just need to make that call.
Go!
Yes, Sedona is amazing. It has a real positive energy to uplift and um, introduce situations or configuration where you can accept a new way of being. I love it. A little bit of my heart is in Sedona. So, I mean, there's lots of retreats and things that are in Sedona that so definitely go with what speaks to your heart, but be there in Sedona at some point if you can. You won't regret it.
Thank you all so much.
You're so welcome. And you know, I feel like everything shared today can apply to every one of us in every level of our journey. We're all dealing with catalyst and can put to use these different practices and ways of changing our reality, introducing a new one, cutting cords with what doesn't um, serve us anymore. And I definitely agree with Colin that no matter how much of a catalyst we all go through, it will come back again as a kind of final review to assess how the current us uh, responds to it. Um, for example, if you have um, a disagreement with a relative and then you resolved it, but then a similar situation comes up again years later with another relative, it's almost like, hey, didn't I go through this again? But the idea is that it's checking to see if you really absorbed and cemented the change in mind and heart that was associated with that initial resolution, but also seeing if you can extract even more wisdom from the experience. So I know it happens to me. We have repeats of catalyst in that in the lesson. Okay, it is 9:17. Usually we just go for an hour. Did anyone have any thoughts, comments, questions, or anything to share? Okay, then thank you guys for joining, sharing all of your wisdom. Thank you for your presence. Everyone have a good night, and I will see some of you tomorrow.
Bye!
Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Ashley.
Welcome. Love to
Thank
you all.
you.
Good night. Thanks. Bye.